So we'll be using Canvas for this course. And within Canvas, you'll see that there's a link to this course syllabus that will indicate the dates and times for our class. The syllabus also contains my contact email. You should feel free to email me to set up an appointment to talk. Happy to talk to you guys on the phone anytime. And my phone number is actually in the contact information within Canvas. This will actually be a flex course in that I will be teaching this remotely. So we're going to be using Zoom as our remote teaching mechanism, and there'll be a link each week for that so that you can log into the class meeting at the appropriate time. It's very important as you look at the course materials that you go in through Canvas to the Pearson MyLab and Mastering link, and you use that link to purchase the materials for the class. These materials are required. It's a university requirement because you get both the electronic version of the textbook as well as access to the learning materials which are necessary to do the homeworks and the quizzes for the class. It's an important part of your grade and your educational experience. So it's required, and it's much more straightforward if you do it this way through the MyLab Pearson link within Canvas. If you need a hard copy of the book, there are plenty of copies that would be available to use that you could get inexpensively. So this is a course in microeconomics, and we'll talk a little bit more about the difference between micro and macro. In this week's discussion board, we're going to introduce ourselves to each other and talk a bit about our previous learning experience within economics, and particularly microeconomics. That helps me as I take you through the discussions that we have, so I know sort of what the level everybody's operating at with these discussions. And we're going to cover the wide range of microeconomic topics this term. I'm concentrating a lot on markets and the behavior of markets and the actors within markets. So consumer behavior, firm behavior, the impact of government on markets, and the resulting market structure. So we'll spend a lot of time talking about perfect competition and monopoly, oligopoly, and monopolistic competition. And throughout these discussions, I'm going to do my best to try to relate these ideas to current events, and you'll also be asked in our discussion board each week to do the same. So the fundamental assumption is that everyone comes to class each week and attends on time. Class will start promptly at 5:50 p.m. And run until we're sort of done for the discussion that week. There's a significant amount of work that's required outside of the class, but attendance is required in the class. This is not a traditional online class, but rather something we're doing through NUFlex. Late work is not accepted, so all work must be completed on time and completely for credit. If you have a great excuse, you can talk to me before the due date to talk about whether I'll accept late work. I never accept late additions to discussion boards. Discussion boards are an important interactive means for you to reinforce your learning, to demonstrate mastery, and to help your classmates understand these topics. And so it's very important that you post on time in your discussion boards. So each week, I'll be posting an announcement about the week to remind you of what the expectations are. They're also laid out here week by week in the syllabus. So each week you're going to be asked to do some additional reading in the text. There are lecture notes that you can refer to that will reinforce some of these concepts. You're going to attend class, participate in classroom discussion, as well as the online discussion for the week. And each week there'll be homework assignments, and periodically there are going to be quizzes in the class. So you have to complete all of this stuff in order to get a good grade. When we do discussion boards, typically on Thursday of the week was the due time for your primary response, and there'll be detailed instructions each week as to what I'm looking for your primary response. And then by Sunday night, you need to do a secondary response, which is a response to either a comment I gave you or to something posted by one of your classmates. And this interaction is very important for the learning process, and will count towards your grade for discussion board posts. So there'll be a specific rubric that you'll see each week that I use for the discussion board post. The grading scale is sort of typical for Northeastern undergraduate classes, but your grade will be made up 10% of in-class discussion. There'll be 25% of the grade is online quizzes. There'll be 5 of those scattered throughout the term. Each week you'll be doing homework assignments. They count for 25% of your grade. And then another 20% is the online discussions that we have each week. And then the final 20% is a final written exam at the end of the term. So here in the syllabus, we go through what we're going to be doing week by week. So I suggest you take a look at that to become familiar with what the workload requirements are. But again, I'll be reinforcing these each week in the announcements. But here in this first week, we want to read chapters 1 and 2 in the text. We want to think a little bit about some of the issues related to the academic crisis brought on by the coronavirus, not just here in the US, but around the world. And we're going to share a little information among ourselves, about ourselves in the discussion board for this week. You'll post by Thursday night and then reply to one or more of your classmates by Sunday. This is a great way for all of us to get to know one another. And then you'll have homework due for chapters 1 and chapter 2. Because this is a short week, I'll be flexible on those dates, but I'd like to have everybody get stuff done on Sunday because, again, we then have the same requirements for the following week. So I don't want students to get behind. So you'll see that the syllabus goes through this in great detail. So please read the syllabus and contact me with questions. There's also a discussion board that's called Contact the Instructor. And so if you have a question that you think might be relevant to everyone in the class, feel free to use that discussion board. I monitor it. And so I'll be able to answer your question there. If it's a personal issue, like you have an issue you want to discuss with me personally, then reach out via email or call me on my cell phone, and we can talk then. It's a little bit easier to reach me after, like, say, 4:30 during the week, but you should feel free to call at any time that's convenient. And if I don't pick up, it goes to voicemail. You can leave me a message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So these are some things I want you to think about with respect to the syllabus. So I have given you somewhat of an introduction to the syllabus. I talked to you a bit about our class expectations, doing work, coming to class on time. And I promise you, if you attend class, if you do all the assignments and you do them on time, you'll be guaranteed to get a good grade. And in fact, there will be shortly a discussion, an announcement to that effect within the class to give you some direction as to how to get a good grade in the class. So in week 1 of micro, we talk about sort of the basic definition of economics. The first 2 weeks are some foundational ideas related to economics that we want to make sure that we understand, because we'll be expanding on those as we go through the course. But economics is basically the study of human choice, and it's the study of human choice within the context of the economic realm. We have various kinds of social sciences that talk about different aspects of human behavior. Sociology is the study of human behavior in society. Anthropology is the study of behavior in our various kinds of groups that we live in. We have political science or government, which is the study of human behavior in the political realm. And economics is where we study choice within the economic realm. What this means is we spend some time talking about markets, and we talk about consumer behavior and firm behavior and government's impact on markets and the different market structures. These are all sort of critical ideas related to the study of economics at this level. And we make a fundamental assumption within economics that as consumers, our decision making is guided by the idea of maximizing our satisfaction. And all of us are different, though. We're different creatures. We learn that from psychology or from observing human behavior in economics or political science. And we derive our satisfaction from different things. So given an extra $100 of income, or the $2,000 in income that people may get from this next round of coronavirus relief checks, we're going to spend them differently. We're going to allocate money different ways. We have different kinds of needs based on family circumstance or where we live. Cost of living varies, different parts of the world, different parts of the country, etc. And when we make a decision, basically what we're trying to do, even if it's unconsciously, is compare our costs and benefits and maximize our benefits. So we maximize our satisfaction in our behavior as consumers. Now, from the perspective of firms, I think we know basically what the fundamental assumption is about the behavior of the firm. The behavior of the firm is basically a profit maximizing institution. That's sort of how our model is fundamentally set up for this kind of discussion. We're going to talk next week a bit more about what we consider to be costs in this sort of cost and benefit trade-off. But as we go through the weeks, we're going to be developing models of economic thought and behavior, and pointing out to one another the sort of the shortcomings, how these models work, how they may not necessarily reflect the reality that we experience, but we'll see the value of these simplified models in trying to learn about economic concepts and economic behavior. The models are based to some extent on the scientific method, meaning that we use the idea of posing a hypothesis, collecting data, evaluating the data, proving or disproving the hypothesis as a way of expanding knowledge within economics. But our economic thought and opinion and stuff is very influenced by our perspective, where we come from within society. So there's a small asterisk with respect to this sort of use of the scientific method here within economics. But these are sort of a couple of the fundamental concepts that underlie our discussion of economic models and the complexity as we develop economic thought through the term. Finally, I want to make sure that folks understand the difference between correlation and causality. Correlation is the relationship between two different kinds of phenomenon, and causality is trying to figure out which aspect has an impact on the other. So the sort of the classic correlation and causality fallacy that we deal with is that ice cream sales are really high when people go to the beach. And we know that it's not because people go to the beach that ice cream sales are high. We know that people go to the beach when the weather is warm, and ice cream sales are high when the weather is warm. So they're both correlating with the weather, and it's not ice cream. It's not going to the beach that causes ice cream sales, though there may be some great ice cream at the beach. And we have to be careful of this concept as we go through the phenomenon we're talking about within economics, and make sure that we understand sort of what causes decision making to occur, and what just may be correlated with that, but not necessarily causality. And this next week, I'll be giving you some examples of that as we talk. So thank you for joining me for this brief introduction, and I look forward to learning more about you and discussing more of our fundamental economic knowledge this week in the discussion board. Thanks.